All right, what is up? What is up? What is up? What is up, awesome people of the internet? Guys, I don't know what just happened to my stream, but we are back. We are back. We are back. Hopefully, this time everything works well. All right, so first of all, happy Sunday. Happy Resurrection Sunday. This has been a phenomenal game of women's basketball already. We have seen a fantastic women's basketball game, South Carolina versus Oregon State. And this game was entertaining throughout. We ultimately saw South Carolina get the dub and take down Oregon State. And this game was all about certain players showing up and showing out for South Carolina. I didn't expect South Carolina to destroy Oregon State at all. I was expecting this to be a very, very close game, but also expecting South Carolina to sort of edge out the competition and get the dub. And that's exactly what they did. So, guys, when we talk about this game, there's a couple of things that comes to mind for me, right? There's a couple of things, and when you look at this South Carolina team, the reason why they are so good is because they can beat you with multiple ways. Multiple ways they can beat you. They can have their bench show up and show out. Their starters can show up and show out. But today, it was the bench mob who won the game for South Carolina. So we talk about, first of all, if you don't know the final score was 70 South Carolina, 58 Oregon State. And when we look at this game, we talk about the fantastic nature of the bench production for the South Carolina team. It's crazy. It is absolutely crazy. We saw Ashlyn Watkins. She came off the bench today. She was starting for the last couple of games. She was starting, and Chloe Kitts came off the bench. But for this game, we saw we saw Chloe Kitts start and Ashlyn Watkins come off the bench. And Ashlyn Swatkins, this girl, in terms of, okay, if you just look at the stat sheets, okay, maybe not that impressive. But still, but like, so she had 8 points in this game. She had 14 rebounds. She had 4 block shots. So, if you're not watching the game, maybe you're like, okay, well, she did a great job rebounding, but other than that, she wasn't that impactful. But if you watched the game, you saw Ashlyn Watkins was basically in just about every single play. Just about every single play, she was there. She was contesting shots. She was tipping the ball and having a great opportunity to sort of get South Carolina the rebound. Even if she didn't actually grab it herself, she sort of tipped it to her teammates. She has done a fantastic job in this game, and that's some of the things that sort of make this South Carolina team so tough. It's because they have a bench mob. They have Ashlyn Watkins. They have Sania Feagin, who gave some really good minutes today. They have Tessa Johnson, she had 15 points in this game. She had a team high in this game. And when we talk about, okay, South Carolina, they have different starters, and the starters decide, like, okay, well, the starters are going to be the top players, right? You would expect that on lots of other teams. But for South Carolina, they have a bench mob who can come in and score more points than the starters. We saw MiLaysia Fulwiley do it for several games. And now it's Tessa Johnson's turn. Tessa Johnson came in the game. She was not that efficient from the field, but she got buckets in. She had 15 points in this game. Also, she got to the free throw line as well and got some points off of that. So all in all, South Carolina, they had the production, and ultimately they got the dub in this game. I do want to talk about Oregon State, because Oregon State, to me, I thought Oregon State had a phenomenal game today. I thought Oregon State did as well as they could have done, with the exception of, if they would have been able to get some more 3-point shots, especially at the end of the game, then who knows what happened? Who knows what would have happened? Oregon State is a team that their chance to win was to pull Kamilla Cardoso out of the paint and to hit threes. They do a lot of screens. and a lot of running off a screen and shooting the ball and hitting it. That's something that Oregon State has done this entire season. And also, Oregon State is a very young team. They don't have any. I believe they do have a senior or two on their team, but they don't have a senior that gets meaningful minutes on their team. They're a young team of basically just freshmen and sophomores who are doing their thing. And when we look at this Oregon State team, they're able to hit threes, they're able to get to the rim, and they're able to hit some mid-range shots. And they did that this year. They did that today. We saw Talia Van Olhoffen. We saw Reagan Beers getting buckets. We saw Donovan Hunter, the freshman, getting buckets as well. It was just that they just didn't have enough at the end of the game. We saw Hansford. Hansford, she came in the game in the first half immediately, 3 after 3 after 3. And I was like, okay, well, all right, Hansford, let's see what you're gonna do. She ended up finishing with 12 points in this game. Ultimately, they tried to get back to her in the second half, trying to get her to hit some threes. Ultimately, they did not fall, and we saw that Oregon State did lose the game. But I did just want to give them a shout out because I thought they played a great game. I really do. I thought they played a great game, and you guys can mark my words. Oregon State will be back in this position in the future. They will be. They made it to the Elite Eight this year, which is like crazy for a team that won like four games in conference play last season. Oregon State sucked last season. They were horrible. Basically bottom of the Pac-12. Didn't really look good. And what a difference 1 year makes. They got together in the offseason. None of them transferred. They grew together, just playing basketball every single day. And they gelled. And now look what we have in Oregon State. Yes, they didn't win the game, but I thought that they played a phenomenal game. Guys, if y'all are watching, if y'all could please hit that like button, that would be absolutely fan-freaking-tastic. But yeah, let's get to some of y'all let's get to some of y'all comments. Let's get to some of y'all comments because I thought that this game was pretty great. And let's talk about it together. So let's see. What's up, JB? JB says, hit that like and subscribe. Yep, y'all listen to JB. JB know what he's talking about. Todd says, hello. Journey says, Watkins for quality defense. Absolutely. Ashlyn Swatkins was at it again. Yes, Kimmy. Yes. She did it again. Goldbrick says, I feel like LSU is going to take it over South Carolina. Well, I mean, first, LSU has to get through Iowa tomorrow. So first things first, and then we'll see what happens. Terry says, who does South Carolina play next? The winner of which game? So next they play. Hold on, let me actually pull up the bracket because I want to make sure I'm right on this. And guys, also let me know how y'all are doing in y'all bracket. let me know how y'all doing in y'all bracket. I really want to know. So South Carolina plays the winner of Texas and NC State. So the game that's happening right now between Texas and NC State, the winner of that will face South Carolina in the Final Four, okay? So hopefully that is helpful. There was before the Texas NC State game, there was a discrepancy with the 3-point lines. So it seems like they got something figured out with that. Journey says, who will start the Final Four game, Kits or Watkins? I guess it depends on the next opponent. I mean, it worked out really well. I mean, it's worked out both ways, you know, either Watkins coming off the bench or having her start. I think, you know, I think it doesn't totally matter. I would say that it feels like Ashlyn has a better game when she comes off the bench than when she starts. I mean, she still plays great when she starts, but it feels like she does have a slightly better game when she comes off the bench. So maybe she does come off the bench. But either way, I think her and Chloe are going to do their thing on for the Final Four. Robert says, hey, Kuda, happy Easter. Happy Easter, guys. Happy Resurrection Sunday. This is the best day every single year. The most joyous day every single year. And, you know, why not celebrate the day? Yes, by going to church, but also by watching some fantastic women's basketball. I'm just saying. I am just saying. JB says, I think Texas will take it over NC State, but it should be a good one. Yeah, it's going to be a good one. I do have Texas winning, though. I do have Texas winning. Hogboss says, I know it's cool to be undefeated, but South Carolina isn't playing competition compared to what LSU has to beat to get to go all the way. So I feel feeling LSU. I feel when LSU meets up with the Gamecocks, they'll be ready. I mean, I thought the Indiana was really good competition. I also thought that Oregon State was good competition as well. I don't know. I don't necessarily think that LSU's competition so far has sort of elevated them to a level where they're a whole lot better than they were earlier this season. Michaela says, watch out for Beers next season. She was so good defensively on Kamilla. Yeah. I mean, if Reagan Beers wasn't in foul trouble, this would be a different game. And also, let's talk about fouls in this game. In the first half, it felt like Oregon State was being ganged up on with like ticky-tack, small fouls being called. And you got both Gardner and Beers in foul trouble. And the second half, it was like, okay, well, now it was South Carolina's turn to get the calls called on them, you know? And I was just like, okay, guys. I mean, ultimately, I don't think the fouls were a determining factor. Because I still think even if Reagan Beers never got in foul trouble, even if Tamia Gardner never got in foul trouble, I still think it would have still been a very uphill battle. It probably would have been a closer game, but ultimately South Carolina likely still would have won. Carol says it was Oregon State versus the refs and South Carolina. I say that as a South Carolina fan. I mean, in the first half, it was tough for them. It was definitely tough. Grace by God says, folks, this is the Elite Eight. It's not meant to be easy. Facts, Grace by God. Yes, you're absolutely right. Yeah, this is the Elite Eight. We're supposed to see very close games. We are supposed to see very, very close games. Bad Guy Rob says, refs were killing both teams today, and I am still mad for Hidalgo. I mean, it is what it is, Bad Guy Rob. It is what it is. Yeah. I agree. This was a good game. I was glued to my seat the whole time. Yes, South Carolina basically had the lead the entire time, but there were times where Oregon State nipped the lead down, and at one point it was a 2-point game in the second half, and I was like, oh, okay. But ultimately, Oregon State, they could do enough to get very close, but they just didn't have the firepower to be able to actually win this game. And I thought that Oregon State, you know, if they played some good defense, If they got Kamilla, Cardoso in foul trouble, if they hit their threes, they had a chance of winning. They did hit threes. They did. But they didn't hit enough threes. They didn't hit as many threes as they needed to actually win this game. They were 8 of 25 from the 3-point line. I think if they were able to get to 12, 13 3-pointers in the game, they would have won, because it's hard to match. It's hard to match Oregon State when they're lighting it up from the 3-point line. It's very difficult. It's very, very difficult, and they just couldn't do it. They just couldn't do it and make that happen. But such is life. I thought they played a good game. RC says Tessa smooth like a Tessa Johnson. Tessa did a great job today. She did. She did a great job today. Bad Guy Rob says Oregon State coach impressed me. Scott Rueck. Scott Rueck is a great coach. He is one of those basketball minded coaches, and like they didn't really have the talent like that last season. I mean, it was basically the same players for the most part. But this season, the reason why they made it as far as they did, yes, because of the work that they did in the offseason, but also because of the great job that Scott Rueck has done as the head coach for Oregon State. Guys, expect to see them more next year and the year after that, because they're going to be fun. They're going to be a fun team. JB says Beers and Gardner each having 3 fouls in the first half was ridiculous, and a lot of those are really head scratching and kept being questioned by the announcers. Yeah, there was one foul where, was it? I can't remember exactly who it was. They were trying to get an offensive rebound. South Carolina had the ball, fighting for a rebound. It was Reagan Beers and someone else. It may have been Ashlyn Watkins, maybe. But basically, they back to back, and then they fall, and they call the call on Reagan Beers, and I was like, what? How is that a foul on her? She didn't even initiate contact. And so there were questionable calls. There were questionable calls in this game. But ultimately, at the end of the day, doesn't matter what the refs do. You still have to show up and show out and win the game, and that's something that Oregon State just couldn't do. Unapologetic 33 with the Gamecock emojis. Let's see. Absolutely, Marley. Marley Mars says, hello, happy Resurrection Day from Philly. Yes, happy Resurrection Day from Chicago. Life is Quay says, don't take this win away from South Carolina. I mean, I'm not. South Carolina won fair and square, but I also think it's important to notate what Oregon State did as well, because I thought Oregon State played a good game. Ultimately, South Carolina just had too much for Oregon State to deal with, and the too much was the bench mob. It was not just what the starters of Kamilla, Cardoso, and Bree Hall, and Raven Johnson, and Te-Hina Paopao, and Chloe Kitts. I mean, sure, they did their thing, but it was the bench that did damage for South Carolina. It was Ashlyn Watkins. It was Sania Feagin, who both had 8 points in this game. Watkins had 8 points, 14 rebounds, including 6 offensive rebounds. She had 4 blocks and way more contested shots, altered shots. She had 1 steal, and her hands were just everywhere on both the offensive and defensive end for Ashlyn Watkins. We also had MiLaysia Fulwiley. MiLaysia did her thing. She had 7 points in this game. Not that efficient, but she pushed the pace. She had active hands. And ultimately that was the dagger. And then finally you have Tessa Johnson. Tessa Johnson, who can hit threes, who can get some shots up, who can get to the foul line. She ultimately ended up with a team high for South Carolina, 15 points. And it was the bench mob that did it. It was the bench mob. So for South Carolina starters, sure, they do their thing, but it's the bench that really wins this game for South Carolina. And that's something that South Carolina has that these other teams don't have. South Carolina has a bench that can start. They have a bench that can start. And that's hard to contend with. That is hard to contend with. The starters for South Carolina had like 32 points in this game. And the bench mob scored the rest. It's hard to deal with. It is hard to defend against a team like this. The bench had 40 something points in this game. It's hard to go against them. It really is. You know the saying, yes, anybody can get got. Absolutely. And Oregon State had a chance to get South Carolina. South Carolina could have gotten got today, but they didn't. Winners win. South Carolina found a way to win. And that was a ball game for you. That was a ball game. Joe says South Carolina is going to be very hard to beat. Yes, no matter who they play. They're just that good, and next year they'll be even better. Yeah. It's tough. They're a tough team. Joshua says, I was hoping to see Oregon State put up more of a fight in the fourth quarter. Was pretty dry. I mean, the reason why is because they just ran out of firepower. We saw them hit threes in the first half, and in the second half, they just didn't have it. They just didn't have it. And I think it was because in the first half it felt like they were playing a bit free. And sometimes too free with some of the turnovers that they had. But it felt like the first half was like they were playing free. And in the second half, especially in that fourth quarter, they were thinking, and they were thinking hard. And ultimately, I think that resulted in them second guessing 3-point shots and missing them. Ultimately. Yeah, Marley Mar. Yeah. They have a bench. What's up, Sergeant? I hope you are doing well. Christopher says, but I love when Don went small and went on that 12-0 run. Yeah. They went on a fast run, and Oregon State was basically over after that. I believe that was in the second half, and it's hard to overcome that. It really is hard. A4 Production says, yes, Resurrection Sunday. Yes, it is Resurrection Sunday. Love your show. Thank you so much, E4. Appreciate your support. AF says, kids has to get stronger in the offseason and work on her balance. I mean, she'll work on it. I think, yeah, overall, she didn't have that great of a game today. But, overall for the season, I think Chloe Kitts has done a great job for the season. Though today, not as productive, but, it's all right. Joshua says, who you got for USC versus UConn? I have USC. USC. Yep. I have USC. Marley says South Carolina has better bench than any team. I'm from Philly, where Don is from. I mean, yeah, South Carolina does have a better bench than anybody in women's college basketball. Yeah. Y'all see this dog? He acting like he all tired. Mr. President, he acting like he all tired. What's up, Kyra? Hope you're doing well. Sergeant says, bad call about the inbound foot on the line. I mean, so the ref did the wrong call, because it seemed like the ref did like a over and back sign for that turnover. what Sargent is talking about there is when there was like seconds left in the game, Oregon State was they called a timeout, ready to inbound the ball. The player inbounding the ball, she shuffled her feet, and the ref did like one of those over like you touched the line or like something like that. But actually the call was a travel. It should have been a travel because she if you are inbounding the ball on like a dead play when there wasn't a basket previously scored, then you can't move. If you move, you kind of have to have a pivot foot. You can't walk around on the baseline if you're inbounding the ball unless it's off of a made basket. If there's a made basket, then absolutely you can move on the baseline. But that inbound was off of a timeout and she couldn't move. It was just a mental error. I don't think she realized that. And then it is what it is at that point. Mm-hmm. Let's see what y'all got to say. Hogboss says, I've been watching about 30 years. Watching women's basketball for 30 years? Wow. All right. Shout out to you. Bad Guy Rob says, LSU needs to be more concerned with Iowa. Clark looking for payback. I mean, I think they're concerned. They should be. If they're not concerned, they should be. And Iowa should be concerned about LSU. Yeah, it's going to be a tough game. It is going to be a tough game for sure. My Life Totally says, SEC, SEC, SEC. SEC. I mean, yeah, the SEC is winning, no matter what. They got money on their mind. They can never get enough. And every time they step up in the building, everybody's hands go up like Watkins, and they stay there and they block your shot. Their hands go up and they block your shot. Guys, I don't know what's going on. I'm just being silly. I am just being silly. Theo says South Carolina can be beat. Just need the right team and the right game plan to yeah. I mean, yeah, of course. Yes, South Carolina's a team. As we know, any team can get got. Yes, South Carolina can be beat. Will they be beat? Is another question. They can be beat, absolutely. Abso-freaking-lutely. The last perfect season was, I believe, UConn. Did that a long while ago. They had a perfect season for the regular season, and then they ended up winning the tournament as well. GB. Lejeune says, Quita, what's your take on the fouls called on both teams? I mean, there were some very questionable, very, very questionable calls called in this game. Ultimately, I think there were bad calls called on both sides. Bad calls for South Carolina, bad calls for Oregon State. If in terms of like the weight of it all, I feel like Oregon State had a little bit more bad foul calls against them, and as opposed to South Carolina, but they both had bad calls. So ultimately, I think it's kind of a wash, though. It was a more of a slight negative towards Oregon State. But at the end of the day, you have to win, regardless of what the refs do. Regardless of what happens, regardless of what calls they call or like whatever, you can't just blame the refs for doing what they do, right? You gotta pull yourself up and you got to say, hey, regardless of what they do, we're going to hit our 3-point shots. We are going to hit our 3-point shots because we know that's what's going to cause us to win. You know, we're not going to get upset at the refs. We're not going to complain. We're not going to be doing anything like that. We are going to say, okay, we want to win. We're going to block out anything else, and we're going to get the job done. So yes, it was bad refereeing, bad calls. It affected both teams, but ultimately, you have to adjust to the refs. You have to. And if you don't adjust to the refs, you're going to lose. You are going to lose. And ultimately, Oregon State didn't really adjust, and they lost. So it is what it is. It is what it is. Tangela says referees just wanted some TV time. I mean, they're trying their best. I mean, you know, as someone who one day wants to be a ref, I mean, you know, try your best. But yeah, they did. I felt like they were guessing at some points in the game. It felt like the refs were guessing about, oh, I think she might have got him. And they do the replay with the camera, and it's like, actually, that wasn't a foul at all. It was just because the way the player reacted, you're like, oh, that must have been a foul. So then you call it, and it wasn't a foul. They got to call what they see, and unfortunately, they didn't ultimately do that. Trudy says you have to adjust. Facts, yes. Regardless of the ref, what the refs do, you have to adjust. Well, yeah. Valerie says live by the 3 and you would die by the 3. Yeah, I mean, unless you can consistently hit threes. Joe says a lot of nonsense calls against South Carolina. Actually, I mean, they're bad calls on both sides. I think the bad calls on Oregon State slightly has the edge. Does that mean a ton? Not really. There's still bad calls on both sides. Both teams got a bad end of the stick on that one. Sania Feagin, there were some fouls that I was like, what? That's not a foul, you know. Reagan Beers, what? That's a foul? You know, Tamia Gardner, you know, Kamilla Cardoso. There were bad calls called today. There were ticky-tack calls called today. Lejeune says, I agree with you, Quita. I thought both teams played through the calls. Both coaches coached their butts off. Yeah. I thought this was a great coaching clinic. Yes. Of course, we all know how phenomenal of a coach John Staley is. Like, it just the times that she decides to call a timeout, the way that she has her team adjust on the fly, the way that they went on that like 10 or 12-0 run stretch, it's coaching. That's her putting in the right personnel and saying, hey, go do this, you know, and them executing. And then for Oregon State, I thought Scott Rook did a great job as well. This is a team that had no business being in the Elite Eight. No business being in the Elite Eight. Oregon State was terrible last year. No one was expecting Oregon State to be good. And what do? They're good. They surprised everybody and make it all the way to the Elite Eight. Yes, is ultimately the result of the game not what they want? Oh yeah, absolutely. They wanted to win this game, but the fact that he has gotten this team to where they're at says a lot about him as a coach. Says a lot about the players that he coaches. And I thought they had a good fight today. Ultimately, they had a great first half. I thought they had a really, really great first half, and they just could not hit the baskets in for the second half. They ran good sets, I thought. Overall, I thought they ran good sets. But the shots didn't fall. And, you know, that's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. That is the way the cookie crumbles. Tangela, first of all, thank you so much, Tangela, for the super sticker. This is a baby video game controller. Sits in a diaper under the word noob. Okay. Appreciate you, Tangela. Carmelo says you would make a great ref. I mean, I think, I would hope so. But at the same time, refs have a hard job. They have a very, very hard job. Hard job. You know, I'm up for the challenge. I am up for the challenge. Y'all, Candace Parker and her daughter got an AT&T commercial. I was just looking on the side of, I'm watching the NC State Texas game, and I just look over. There's a commercial with Candace and Layla. That's pretty cool. In an AT&T commercial. So shout out to Candace Parker for continuing to get the bag. Guys, I do want to just walk through Oregon State real quick. So I talked about how bad they were last year. When I say bad, they were bad. They were 4 of 14 in the conference last season. They were also 13 and 18 overall. They had 13 wins, 18 losses last season. They were terrible. Not good. They lost a ton. And what a difference a year makes. What a difference. They have that terrible 13 of 18 last year. And all of a sudden, this year, Elite 8. Now, we talk about how great this generation of women's basketball is. We talk about how great women's college basketball is now. And Oregon State is proof of that. There's parity in the women's game. There is parity where you can go from being trash to competing, like heavily competing with South Carolina in the Elite 8. Yes, you ultimately lose, but they should have their head held high. And also, this needs to be a talking point that coaches give to their players at the end of the seasons when everybody jumps in the portal. There's a lot of players who have jumped in the portal. Players, good players who are averaging like 2 points a game, players who are averaging 5 minutes a game. Lots of players are entering in the portal. And I think as a coach, it would behoove some coaches to be like, hey, we could beat Oregon State. We could do what Oregon State did. Last year, Oregon State was trash. Pick your team. This year, we are trash. We didn't make the tournament or we didn't make it as far as we wanted. Instead of entering into the portal, let's lock in. Let's gather together, and let's work on the offseason. No one transfer, and we're going to get this done, and we're going to be better for it next year. And we're going to see how far we can take it. When we talk about the portal, a lot of times we don't when you talk about the portal, you don't really see the potential of some teams because someone is upset at their playing time or someone's like, this team is not good and I don't know if we're going to be good next year, so I'm going to leave. And this is this is not me talking bad about anybody who entered the transfer portal, like more power to them. But if I'm a coach, I'm pointing to Scott Rueck and Oregon State and I'm saying, hey, this could be us. You don't have to enter the transfer portal. Let's lock in and let's make some stuff happen. I think, when times get tough, you got to get tough. You don't always have to run out and find another team because the grass is not always greener on the other side. You can ask you can ask people who have transferred before and some of them will tell you the grass is not always greener on the other side. You don't know until you jump ship and then you're gone. And then you're like, oh man, I shouldn't have did that or like whatever. Lock in, stay with your team, and let's see what y'all can do next year. That is what I would tell players if I was a D1 coach right now. That's what I would be saying. I'd be saying, look at Oregon State. Look at Scott Ruick. Look at what they did. Look at what they did. So yeah, that's my little rant for women's college basketball, because I think that it's just, there's more opportunities. There are more opportunities in the women's game, and teams can be a whole lot better if players just stick it out. Yeah, so that's what I would say. Guys, Isaiah James has gone off for NC State. Isaiah James has 19 points. And guys, we're in the second quarter. We are in the second quarter. Second quarter, guys. NC State is up 37-22 for Texas. Yeah, I mean, it's not looking good for Texas. It is not looking good at all. But wow. Isaiah James. Whew. Man, they're very, very talented. Shout out to JB. Thank you so much, JB. JB says, not much to say here, just supporting the best channel on YouTube. Thank you so much, JB. Y'all support my dog, Quita, for her hard work and content. Much love, awesome people of the internet. Salute. Thank you so much, JB. I really, really do appreciate the financial support. Yeah, guys. Isaiah James. It's so pretty. Her 3-point shot is so pretty. It is so pretty. So pretty. It's going to take a lot. It's going to take a lot for Texas to come back in this game. I had Texas winning. I still have Texas winning. They still can come back. It's the second quarter. But, yeah, it's going to be tough. George Goro says, college players love jumping ship when things get tough. Men and women, the fellas need to hear this too. I mean, yeah, if I'm a coach, that's what I'm saying. But as a spectator, players do you. If that's what you feel in your heart, you want to leave or whatever. Okay, well, go ahead. But if I'm a coach, I'm saying, hey, what if we did this? Just imagine. What if we did this? What if Lauren Betts stayed at Stanford? What if Haley stayed at Louisville? What if? Again, not necessarily saying that these players shouldn't have moved, because that's 100% their decision and whatnot. But if I'm the coach, I'm like, man, if y'all just trust the process, we could actually make something happen. We can make something happen. Kamilla says Oregon State absolutely had to turn around this year. Kudos to them. The second quarter and the beginning of the third of this game, they really showed tenacity and work hard. Yeah. They're a tough squad. They are a tough squad. Tim says, what about Virginia Tech and you don't have a coach anymore? Well, that's different. I think that's a whole lot different. Because yeah, your coach left, Ray says, what if Peely stayed at USC? Yeah. Before she was at Utah, Peely was at USC. And she mentioned that she needed to leave and she's developed more of a love for the game after leaving for going to Utah, which is, seems like the right decision for her and whatnot. But just imagine if Peely was on USC. Can you imagine? Peely, Juju Watkins, Rhea Marshall, Kayla Padilla, what could they have done differently? Right now USC is, number 1 seed in their regional. But can you imagine what some of these teams could be if the transfer portal didn't exist. And I think that coaches need to be like, hey, trust it. Trust what we can do together. Y'all, Isaiah James. Oh, she missed it. Looks like she's getting to the foul line. Woo. She is 5 of 6 on contested field goals, 5 of 5 off teammates' passes, and she has scored and assisted on 21 points today. Guys, NC State has 39. What a game. What a game for Isaiah James. She misses the first free throw. 39-22. Anyway, guys, that's basically the video. That is basically the video. Guys, listen to Gender Goop who says give this stream a like, y'all. Yeah, y'all hit that like button. I will end it here. Guys, I will not be able to do a stream after this NC State Texas game. Unfortunately, I will not be able to. But it looks like NC State is going to get the win. Y'all can check me out tomorrow for a recap of today's games. Yeah. That's basically it, guys. I don't really have much of anything else to say. Whew. Tired. Man, why am I so tired? Anyway, guys, I appreciate y'all. Happy Resurrection Sunday. Remember the actual reason why this day is called Resurrection Sunday. And the reason why this is the best day of the year, every single year. Guys, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. Happy Sunday. And I will see y'all tomorrow. Until next time, guys. Bye.